ChatGPT, as you know, has the ability to give you a plethora of information. If you give it a standard and say, write me a lesson plan, it'll write that lesson plan. If you ask it to write a paper for you with a prompt, it'll write that paper. If you give it a prompt and say, write me an outline to this book, it'll do that for you. It will even read an article for you and outline the article for you. Wouldn't it be better if we could have ChatGPT work with us or with you? Ask ChatGPT to slow down so that you can learn and have a dialogue, a collective conversation with the bot. Let's do just that. Let's grab a couple of articles, upload it to ChatGPT, and dialogue with the generative AI. Here we go. This is ChatGPT. If you have never seen ChatGPT, go to openai.com and create an account. Now, there is a free version. It used to be called 3.5, but it is now GPT 4 Omni Mini or 4.0 Mini, as you can see right there. But I'm in the paid version. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this paperclip, we're going to upload an article, and this article is from the Harvard University Learning Center, Teaching and Learning, Center for Teaching and Learning, that is. And we're going to talk about how memory works. And this is based on the science of learning. We're going to take this information that I've created as a PDF and get a conversation going with ChatGPT. Now, the goal is to get ChatGPT to slow down. And I'm going to show you what I did. I asked ChatGPT to read this article. I said, read the article. I just said, read these two articles, actually. I didn't tell it what to do. It read it. I just said, read it. And it gave me everything about the article. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to upload this article. Let's go find it. Here it is. How memory works. And then I wanted to ask it this question and prompt. Let's chat about the article. How memory works. First, read the article. Do not give me the information. Let me know when you've read it. Then ask me one question to get the conversation going. We are a collaborative partnership. If you just give me the information, I don't learn. I want to be a self-determined learner in this dialogue. So let's see what happens. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I've read the article, I've read all of this information on the science of teaching and learning in the Harvard Review or the the Center of Teaching and Learning at Harvard Business or Harvard Education. And it's very interesting, and I want you to be involved in this conversation. So it gave me some output. I've read the article, How Memory Works. To get our conversation started, I'm curious. How do you see the dual process theory with its distinction between system 1 and system 2 thinking, applying to your current work with educational partners? Now, let's say, give me a 3-sentence overview of system 1 and 2 thinking. So it tells you system 1 thinking is characterized by fast, automatic, and unconscious processes, often used for routine tasks, like maybe putting your backpack away, maybe hanging it a certain way, maybe going to grab your folder in the classroom, going to sit down, getting ready to learn. In contrast, system 2 thinking involves slower, more deliberate, and conscious processes that require effortful analysis and problem solving, typically used for tasks requiring critical thinking. Both systems interact in learning, with system 1 providing the foundational knowledge that system 2 builds upon for deeper understanding and complex decision making. Now, the things that become automatic, they start to become system 1. So the prior knowledge, the information that is already in the long-term memory, that becomes part of system 1. So what is becoming or is system 2, once it goes into the long-term memory, can become system 1. So let's talk to ChatGPT about that. How can I use system 2, give example of an NGSS standard molecules to integrate spaced practice and the other interleaved space practice and the other interleaved practices? Let's ask it that question. So to use system two thinking with an NGSS standard, like, now, okay, now I wanted it to slow down. This is a lot. I really want to be part of the dialogue. Now I'm going to read this because I'm curious. To use system two thinking with NGSS standard like middle school physical science 1-1, develop model to describe the atomic composition of simple molecules and extended structures, you can integrate space practice and interleave practice in the following way. Space practice. Instead of teaching the concept of molecular composition in one session, spread it over several sessions. And it gives you an example. Interleaved practice. Rather than focusing solely on molecules during practice sessions, mix in related topics like chemical reactions. I like this. So for example, I'm looking at a molecule like H2O, and I'm taking part of that, looking at the chemical reaction of 2H2 and O2 yields, arrow, 2H2O. That is the chemical equation. So I'm now interleaving not just the molecule, like the coefficient and the subscripts, 2 is the coefficient, and 2H2O, 2 at the beginning of the molecule of H2O is the coefficient, and the subscript, H2, the little 2 at the bottom, that is the subscript. And now I'm talking about not just the molecule, but how many molecules and how many elements or atoms I'm using in this molecular equation. So I'm interleaving content. I would almost argue that I could interleave what this looks like with writing. Okay. I do like what you gave as examples. Perfect. How could I also use the other practice that is not listed? So deliberate practice, focus on having students deliberately practice specific skills related to NGSS standard over time. So now we're talking about other types of practices. With the assumption that you already read the article, I would want to bring in some other practices, and I would want to ask it, what about like the state dependent memory, schemas, chunking, taking bits, large bits and putting it into sections, and testing. Let me restate that. Low stakes testing, like show what you know, for example, like on a whiteboard or talk to your neighbor, peer to peer. What could we do next? Ask a question. This way I know it's thinking what I'm thinking, or at least processing and pulling information from the article. Okay, so it gave me, okay, great additions. Here's how you could incorporate those practices. State-dependent memory, encourage students to learn and recall information in a consistent environment. Schemas help students develop and adjust mental frameworks for understanding molecular structure. Like, what does that mental framework look like? For me, it might be drawing the models, creating the models, the three-dimensional models. If you don't have those kits, for example, or whatever manipulative, whatever practice you're doing with whatever the content is, chunking, breaking down complex concepts like molecular composition into smaller, more manageable chunks. Like, what is hydrogen? Like, explaining and talking about the hydrogen. Why is it a polarized molecule? Things like that. And then deliberate practice and low stakes testing. Use peer-to-peer quizzes. Yes, I love that. Peer-to-peer conversations. Students have you ever been asked, like, go ahead and explain this concept to me, and you're the teacher from a student? They just freeze. But when they're talking to their peer, their neighbor, it changes everything, because now they're in a comforting place. Now they can have a conversation with someone that they know. Maybe take 2 minutes and talk to the person next to you and talk about molecular structure. Okay, go. Take another 2 minutes, stop, go to the next two students. Talk to your peer for 2 minutes. And then when you're finished, and when I say stop, you're going to process, think about what you just heard. Make sure that both of you talk. One talks for 1 minute, the other one talks for the other minute. And then you go to the next one. Maybe you have some rules like you tell person A tells the person B what the molecular structure is. Then person B reiterates what person A says. But if they think it's incorrect, they say, well, I think, and maybe do you think? Like you can challenge them to really talk and have a conversation about the learning. If this feels like a lot, grab an article that you like, an article that you already read, or if you already know of a book that you've read, you can ask ChatGPT, outline this book for me, and just know that I already read it. And then you can talk to ChatGPT about it. How can I use this information in my classroom? How can I use this information in my organization? You can get ChatGPT to slow down because watch this. I'm going to speed it up. Create a lesson for all the above for 2 weeks. Integrate that standard along with the phenomena and ELA and mathematics concepts. Oh, I'm going to really push it. And standards for mathematical practices. It's just going to spit it out. And then you don't have a voice and you're like, I don't want to do that. That's too much. I can't even think straight. You already know that when you open up a product that that you just got from the publisher and maybe your school district just adopted it. It's a lot. It's spitting all this out. It's going to give me week 1. Look at all this. I don't even see the standard. Like, okay, so week 1, activities, ELA integration, math integration, schema, build a base. It's telling me what I could do. Okay, but okay, let's go back. Introduction to atoms and molecules. Objectives. Students will understand will they? Okay, what will they understand? Like, be really specific. Include learning intention and success criteria. Like you could, if you are at that point where you're like, I can actually follow this, let us spit it all out. Learning intentions. Now, you cannot do all these learning intentions at once. You will have to do them over the 2 weeks, and you may still only be able to do a few, but it is middle school science. Success criteria. This is like a lot. Where's the lesson plan? Question mark. Okay, this is better. Even though I pushed it, as a science teacher, I could run with this. But if you're not, and you know that you're good at instruction and learning a concept and helping students learn it, make ChatGPT slow down because you can see that I did that. And lastly, I can say, let's create a lesson plan together. That is way too much to think about, and it is not my voice. Let's just do one day. It's still thinking. That's the thing. It's still thinking. Day 10. That's why that's too much. And check. You see why ChatGPT can feel overwhelming for you as an adult? It could feel that way for students. There are some that they don't even read the paper that they took your prompt in middle or high school. They threw it in here, let it write the paper and turned it in and don't even know what they turned in. But if you can use it this way, you can have it dialogue, help me come up with an outline. How should I organize this? How would I organize this? I read the book. I don't even know where to get started. Talk to me, ask questions, help me think, prompt me. I don't have anyone that can have a dialogue or conversation or prompt me at home. Things like that. So look, let's create the lesson plan for one day together. How about we focus on day 1 where we're introducing atoms and molecules. We can break it down step by step and make sure it fits your style and approach. Where would you like to start? Let's start with the NGSS MSPS 1-1 standard. That's where we want to start. See, develop models to describe the atomic composition of simple molecules and extended structure. I would like to introduce with tangible, let's see, manipulatives molecules, letting students play and identify the atoms and electrons. See, in my mind, I know what I wanted to see. Okay, let's see if it, now I asked it to keep me part of the process. Is this letting me be part of the process, or are you doing the work again? Now I'm going to read it before I hit enter. Students will understand the basic components of atoms and how these atoms bond. So, and the success criteria is not what I said. I said play, basically. Touch the molecules from the kit. The learning intention was clear, and you created a harder success criteria. So it's not letting them touch it. It's still doing it again. I asked to be part of the conversation. So now I'm going to let it finish. So, okay, this is what I see. This is where ChatGPT isn't flawed, but it will do what it thinks it wants you. It will do what it thinks you think it wants to do. This is what I wanted it to do. We started with NGSS standard and your idea of using tangible manipulatives for exploration. That's what I just want them to explore. Kids aren't going to learn until they get that out of their brain. You mentioned wanting students to play with the molecules and identify atoms and electrons. How would you like to phrase the success criteria for that? I would, learning intention. Students will learn the parts of the molecule kit, all atoms and electron bonds that are in the kit. Success criteria. Students can explain the elements, to their peers and in writing in full, complete sentences. I gave them 2 because I want them to write out, for example. So this is what it thought I wanted. It was going way too far. It was assuming that these students knew everything. Even in middle school, they need to go slow. So this is what I wanted. So students will learn the parts of the molecule kit, including all atoms, elements, and electron bonds. Success criteria. Students can explain the atoms, elements, and bonds to their peers and write about them in full, complete sentences. Molecule kits, 5 minutes. Ignore the time. You know it's going to take longer than that. So this is better. Can you find all the different atoms in your kit? What do you notice about how the bonds connect? What do you notice about how the bonds connect? So even though that's a question in there, still the success criteria and learning intention is very specific. And I am going to say, write the standard or rewrite the NGSS standard. Just that. Let's see, hopefully it won't rewrite the whole thing. Okay. The reason why, number 2. So in other words, MSPS, there we go. Develop and use models to describe the atomic composition of simple molecules and how atoms bond to form extended structures. We can't get them there until they know everything that is hidden in that standard. So that is what the science of learning is getting kids to slow down, think, talk, dialogue, have opportunities to practice. That's what we're doing. And at the same time, I just gave you a skill on how you can have a dialogue with ChatGPT. I do hope this was helpful. If you would like, you can subscribe to my email list and you can get updated on all the latest YouTubes that come out. And I can also send you freebies on PDFs that I create in Canva on ChatGPT and the science of learning. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. And really comment. Tell me how you're using ChatGPT to make you proficient, or at least more proficient and efficient in your classroom. Thank you so much for watching.